Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to askNK. Today we're taking a look at Fluent Materializer, a beautiful procedural tool that you can use for making procedural materials and also beautiful texturing for your 3D models. Now this requires no UV at all, as you can actually use this and do some amazing mapping, and all of these things work procedurally, which is actually mind-blowing. Now for anyone who would like to take a look at this, I'm going to put a link in the description that can bring you right here where you can actually get this tool, and even more, you can get it for 20% off since it is just been launched a couple of hours ago. Now with this said, we're going to dive directly into Blender and take a look at how this actually works. So with Blender simply open right here, all you need to do once you download this add-on is go over to Edit, go over to Preference, and then install the add-on. Now within the add-ons, you need to hit on the Install button to install the add-on, and you'd notice that we have it right here. Something else which you also need is the default node wrangler that comes with Blender, and you can also proceed to simply make this one active by turning on the button from here. Something to keep in mind is if you're trying to use this add-on works mostly and actually more efficiently with cycles. So we're going to switch this to cycles, switch this to GPU, and switch this to the shader editor. Now with the shader editor here, if you press N on the keyboard, you would notice that we have the Fluent add-on right here. So to actually get the most out of this, what we need to do is as simple as this. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this light. So let's get a couple of lights around just to make sure that we have a very illuminated model. And then the next thing which I'm going to do is switch this to renderer. So now that we have this within the rendering section, the next thing which we would like to do is create a material. So select the model which you want to work on and then click on the new button to create a brand new material. And of course, if you press N on your keyboard, you would notice that right now the Fluent now has a couple of things that you can work with. Now there are certain textures and also nodes that you can use to drive your procedural texturing, and to take a look at them, you need to click on this button, which actually brings down a drop down, and you can search for these things. Like right here we have two shaders. If you go over to fabric, you can notice the number of fabrics that you have. You also notice that you have a couple of grunges, and then you can check out for the imperfections right here. Now these things actually depends on what you're trying to create, and of course you can make the most out of these things. To get started, you need to note that there is a function key that actually activates this, and you can get that active by pressing F on your keyboard. And now you'd notice that we have the layer types that you can work with, like the mix layer, new layer, smart shader with 2 layers, and also smart shader with 3 layers. Then we also have some matte nodes that you can play with as well. We have the mask, and then we have some presets for metal colors. So for this one, we're just going to start up with a brand new layer. So with this selected, you would notice that automatically it attaches a brand new set of layers to this. Let's go in and change the color a little bit. So I'm just going to go in there and let's see what we can do. Let's change the color to something like this. So one of the first things which you would like to test out is the roughness. So how you can actually get these things to work very well, or maybe how you can start seeing some imperfections, is if you go over to the section, select the imperfection, click on this button, you can select from a list of imperfections that exist here, and to any of them that you notice that has the SP, it's more like a semi-procedural tool that you can work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off with the SMUDGR 02, which looks like a very cool one to start off with. And then I can connect the roughness of this over to this one. And that is how easy it is. Once you connect the roughness, it's as easy as that. And if you like to take a look at what this roughness actually does, you can simply select this, hold down Ctrl and Shift and click on this button, and you can see what the roughness looks like. Now this action, which is the Ctrl, Shift and click, is the main reason why we turned on the node wrangler in the first place. We can now proceed to increase the scale if we would like to do that, reduce the scale if we would like to do this. If we also like to get some contrast in, we can also, punch in some contrast. If we would like to get some more roughness in, or maybe we want to get some less roughness, maybe we just want to play with it, we can also proceed to do something like this. Now at any point in time you would like to also test this, you can also select your principal shader, hold down Ctrl and Shift, click one more time, and there you have what you're going for. So let's zoom right in to take a look and see what we have. And right over here, you can notice that we are having some sort of artifacts happening there. So all of these tiny, imperfections are what we're going for. We can also proceed to add some more stuff like fingerprints. And once you click and select, automatically, these gets added right here. So I'm just going to hold down Alt, click and drag to get that out of the way, and then select the roughness and connect the roughness right here. If you like to preview this before you apply that roughness, you can hold down Ctrl and Shift and click and you can see what you have. So you can go in and play with the scale if this is what you want. If you like to play with the amount of stuff that you can get, of course you can also proceed to do this. And of course you can also play with roughness and get some very cool results. So for anyone who is thinking about reducing the shininess of this, of course you can do that. We can go in and turn this all the way up, and then you would notice that we're getting that result. And you can also play with this one to also get some very cool result out of it. The same thing happens with this as well. So you can play with these results and check them out. But for sure, if you want to simply check them out by default, by just simply holding down Ctrl and Shift and clicking, you can also do the very same thing. Now, it starts making more sense if you would like to mix things together and maybe you want to drive certain parts of this model with other things. So to do that, we're going to simply select on this object, press F on the keyboard and go over to the mix layers. Now with the mix layer now, we can simply mix two different layers together and get some very brilliant result. So something we can do here is simply have this one selected, which is the mix layer, press F on the keyboard and then add a brand new set of layers, which we can now use to drive the mix. So in this case, we can say, all right, maybe we would like to get something a bit more populish, maybe something like that. That doesn't hurt to have it. And we can simply start playing with the mask. Now it makes sense to actually understand how mix layers work, as you need a mask to actually mix between this first layer and the second layer. And to get this mask, you need to select the mix layer, press F on the keyboard, and you can notice that we have a couple of masks here that we can use. So in this case, I can simply select all edges, and this is going to select all the edges that we have here and actually use them to drive the mix of what we have. Now, if you also would like to have some textures drive this and maybe give you some very cool results, you can of course go ahead and do that as well. So we can also proceed to go over to maybe the grunges. Maybe we'd like to use some grunge to drive something like this. We can choose to do that by simply selecting any of the grunge that we like, and we can get the result of this grunge 05 and connect it to the texture. And in most cases, you might probably not actually need this. Maybe you might want it to spread out a little bit more. You can also choose to make this spread out a bit more. Now at certain times you might also would like to get some differentiation between given parts. That is also something that you can do. So I'm just going to set this one to 0.2, and then to get that sort of differentiation we would use the normal and wire that normal all the way down. So let's go in and get that. So I'm just going to bring this one down, and once we zoom in, you can now start noticing that we have some sort of differences happening. Let's increase the strength, and you can even see it even way more. So you can notice that we have that there, and we can also choose to play with the distance to see what we can get out of this. So with what we've just talked about, you can also see that we have a much more complex looking, but with the very same idea. So what we have here is, let's actually go ahead and render this so that you guys can see. So what we have here is basically the very same things that we've talked about, and you can use this to create even more engaging and lovely looking renders. So from what we have here, we have a simple mix which is being driven by the cavity, and of course you can access the cavity by simply selecting the object, pressing F on your keyboard, and you can use the cavity instead of this. All right, so instead of using the all edges, you can use the cavity as well. So you can use the cavity to capture all of the cavity areas where you can now drive certain materials on. And what we did there is we simply use the cavity alongside with a grunge gradient, which is actually this that we have here, and we're using it to pass things through. So if you also select this object, hold down Shift and Control, click, you would also notice that with this you can choose to scale this upwards or downwards. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So you can choose to scale this upwards, and you can also choose to use this particular grunge to scale this downwards. And moving forward, you would also notice that we have another mix, which is just simply getting from this and this by a different group altogether, which you can also take a look at. If you hold down Shift and Control, click, you would notice that we have this grunge that is actually driving it. And once you're done creating your masterpiece, you can proceed to go right here within your viewport, press N on the keyboard, and go over to the Fluent panel, where you can now bake this to PBR textures. So in this case, you can choose whatever map size that you like, from 1K all the way to 8K, and you can also choose the sampling from here. In this case, we're just going to keep it at the default, and if you want to bake edges, cavity, or you simply want to bake the PBR maps, you can go ahead and do that. By simply clicking on this button, this will tell you that nothing is selected. So this simply means that you need to select the object itself and click on Bake PBR for you to actually bake it. So with this done, the next thing which you can do is go over to Windows, go over to your new Windows, and from here we're just simply going to change the editor type to our image editor. So within the image editor, if we click on this button, we can now take a look and see the bakes that you have. So you can see the very first one, which we did earlier prior to, making the video. And then you can see the second one that we have right here. So these are very identical stuff. And this baking is going to be extremely useful for those who already have textures and would like to take this out from here over to a DCC app to actually work with it, or probably for those who would actually want to get this as a texture that they can use at any point in time instead of reading the notes over and over. So this is more like it. For those who like to take a look at this, of course you can go over to the link in the description that can bring you over to the page where you can check it out. And of course you can get this for 25% off. And if you're trying to check out some of the tools that they already have, they are the very same creator of the Fluent stressless modeling tool, which actually makes life easy for those who would love to start making some pretty cool models. Tell me what you guys think about these ones in the comment section. And of course, if you like this video or you learned something from this, you can go ahead and give a like, and don't forget to share with a friend. And if you're new here, it's going to be amazing for you to hit the subscribe button and also turn on notifications so that you don't miss next video or the next update. And I'll see you guys again with a tutorial update. Free Friday, Tutorial Tuesday, tips and tricks, things like this. Peace.